If you guys are thinking of moving to Colorado, one of the first questions you might be asking yourself is, how much is it going to cost to live there? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you guys the complete breakdown, and we're going to talk about everything from housing expenses to taxes to transportation costs and even recreational activities, because that's definitely something you're going to want to budget for. So if that sounds like what you're looking for, you're going to want to watch this video because this is going to tell you everything you need to know. So to start off, let's dive into our housing costs. We're going to look at this overall, and then we're going to dive into a few specific areas. So in general, the Denver metro area average home price is about $600,000. Now, what you're going to find is that this is where the majority of the expenses are going to come from when you're living in Colorado. On average, our home prices are about 25% higher than the national average, but you may be surprised with some of the other bills where you see that they're not as expensive as other places and oftentimes cheaper. Depending on where you're coming from, there might be a little bit of a sticker shock if you're coming from the Midwest, or you might be pleasantly surprised to see how far your dollar goes out here if you're coming from someplace like California, like a lot of you guys are. Now, how much you pay for a home is going to be largely dependent on where that home is located. In general, the closer you are to the mountains on the west side of Colorado, the more expensive the homes are going to be. The way I like to put it is that that's equivalent to our beachfront property out here. So what you're going to find is that at the beachfront properties per se, right, or as close to the mountains as you can get, those areas were often the ones that were developed first. So you're going to have some older homes out there, but they also have the best views, which is highly valuable here in Colorado. Those are also going to be some of the more expensive homes. So you're going to be looking at slightly more expensive homes that also may be slightly older. Now, there are a few neighborhoods that are newer homes that are popping up out there, like Sterling Ranch, Red Rocks Ranch that is out there in Morrison. Both of those are new developments that are very, very close to the mountains. So if that's something that you're looking for, you definitely want to check those out. But in general, closer you are to downtown or the closer you are to the mountains, the more expensive the homes are going to be and the older they're going to be. Now, if you're looking for maybe something in between, some really popular areas I'm sure you guys are familiar with if you've been watching our channel would be like a Castle Rock, a Southeast Aurora, a Westminster, a Thornton, a Broomfield up on the north side. So there are quite a bit of places where you still have great mountain views, where you still have a lot of Colorado scenery and nature without necessarily needing to be right up against the foothills. So that's definitely going to be your best bet if you're looking for a combination of views and affordability. So let's touch on rentals a little bit here. The average one-bedroom rental here in the Denver area is going to be about $1,600 a month, and that's going to be fairly close to what you're also going to find for the surrounding metro cities. So there are a lot of really good renting options if you are looking to live within the city of Denver. If you're going on the outskirts and some of the more suburban neighborhoods, there are a lot of good options there as well, although it won't be as densely packed as Denver is for obvious reasons. But there is a good rental market out here. There is quite a bit of availability. It is on the higher end, in my opinion. That's why a lot of people that are coming out here, sometimes they're talking about renting for a year, and then once they really start seeing the type of house you can get for the rental dollar versus the same type of house for the purchase dollar, oftentimes they're just opting to go ahead and just purchase anyway. Overall, I feel like our average home prices are really good compared to what you see with the rest of the country. The rental market, though, I do feel like that's a little bit on the high end. So again, weigh the pros and cons of each one, see what's going to work best for you, and make your decision from there. Now, let's dive into our taxes. So we're going to talk property taxes as well as income tax. So starting off with property taxes, you're going to find our average property tax rate here in Colorado is 0.49%, essentially of the purchase price of the home. So if you're looking at purchasing a $500,000 home and the tax rate is, we'll call it 0.50, right? 0.5%, then you're going to be looking at annual tax bill of about $2,400, which is amazing. However, that really only applies to areas that are already established and matured. So for example, if you're buying a home in Denver, obviously that was built a long time ago, all the infrastructure is already there, you're going to be closer to that 0.5% tax rate. If you were looking at a brand new build community where they have higher taxes to accommodate for just new infrastructure, police departments, fire departments, water, sewer, schools, things like that, you're going to be looking at an average of about 1%. 5%. Again, if you're looking at established Aurora, Lakewood, Westminster, Broomfield, any of those places, Denver, you're going to be looking at about 0.5% for tax. New build, roughly 1%. The highest I've seen out here is roughly 1.2% for a few select new build communities. But again, comparing that property tax to a lot of other places, guys, it can be a lot more affordable. What I like is that, you do have control over this. So if saving a lot on property tax is something that's really important to you, then we can just make sure that we're looking at neighborhoods for you guys that are already mature and established and developed, where you can save quite a bit of money on your taxes. Now let's talk income tax. Now I know if you're coming from Florida or Texas, you may not like the fact that you have income tax here, but it actually is pretty reasonable. With Colorado, you're looking at a flat state income tax rate of 4.4%. So not terrible. And if you are coming from a Texas or Florida where you're not used to having income tax, hopefully you're able to save a little bit on your property taxes, as we just talked about. So ultimately, maybe you're breaking even or saving a little bit. And to give you guys some actual numbers, that means if you were to earn $70,000, your income tax for that year would be about $3,800. All right, now let's talk sales tax here. There is a flat sales tax base rate of 2.9%, but then when you add local taxes from whatever local municipality you're purchasing in, it can go up to about 8.8% in Denver, which is average, as high as 9% in Boulder, and it's going to fluctuate anywhere between, let's call it 6 to 9% based on the actual city that you are purchasing whatever goods in. So definitely something to consider when you're looking at your overall cost of living in Colorado. I didn't want to finish talking taxes without diving into sales tax at least a little bit. If you guys are finding value in this video, we have put together a complete Colorado relocation guide that is available for download. So if you just go in the description below, download that guide. We're going to have tons of information about cost of living, in addition to everything else you need to know when relocating to the state. So let's get right back to it. Now, moving along here, let's talk utilities and home expenses. Now, based on our research, we found that you should expect to spend on average $180 a month for all of your basic home utilities. So that's going to be electrical, water, sewer, trash, and gas. Here in Colorado, you guys may or may not have a gas bill, and I'm talking natural gas, wherever you're coming from. But here, because we have furnaces in every home, those are usually run off of gas. Obviously, if you have any other gas appliances or anything like that, but that's usually the most affordable of all the utilities. Electricity, that's also pretty affordable around here. On average, people are paying about $80 a month for their electric bill, but solar is also a very big deal out here. It is very, very common because of how much sun we get out here. A lot of people have solar panels on their home, but one thing you're definitely going to be aware of whenever you're going to purchase is to find out if those solar panels are owned outright, come with the home as is, or a lot of times what you'll see is that the homeowners are simply making payments on their solar panels, and oftentimes those payments do extend over to the buyer when they purchase the home, which in my opinion kind of defeats the whole purpose of having solar. As far as savings perspective, yes, you're helping the environment, but ultimately if you're trying to save some money, if you have 20 years of payments on the solar panels, it might defeat the purpose. So for example, when I purchased my home, it had solar panels on it. It has solar panels on it. Yes, I do save quite a bit of money on my electric bill every month, but I owe a substantial monthly payment to pay off those solar panels, and it's on like a 20-year program. So personally, I probably am never going to be able to reap the benefits of the extra electrical savings for quite a while. Or if I end up selling this house, I may never get to experience it. Now, this is something that is negotiable. So as we're out there making offers, talking with homeowners, we can negotiate that the sellers potentially pay off the solar panels when we purchase the home. Or like I said before, they may already be owned outright. And in that case, your electrical bill might be $0 to $30 a month, just depending on how much electricity you're planning on using. Now let's talk HOAs. So HOAs are very popular out here in Colorado. I would just assume that if you were looking at purchasing in any sort of traditional suburban neighborhood out here, that you're going to have some sort of HOA payment. These payments tend to be very, very affordable for single family homes in Colorado. For condos and townhomes, they're going to be quite a bit more, but for single family homes, they're usually going to range anywhere from maybe $40 to $80 a month. right? Not terrible. But the inclusions with that HOA is typically trash, recycling, common area grounds maintenance, the clubhouse, the pool, all of that stuff. I mean, frankly, from just having your trash and recycling covered as part of that, that really offsets the cost of that, because I think, you know, out here where I live, I don't have an HOA because I live out in the country pretty much. I'm paying about 40 bucks a month just for my trash and recycling as it is. So ultimately, I feel like that's not a terrible deal if you're living in a place with an HOA. Oftentimes people are a little anti-HOA or weirded out by HOAs, or maybe they had a bad experience in their state where they live.
Ah, novelty mailbox. That's a violation. Oh yeah, that's a violation.
But I can confidently say that in general here in Colorado, guys, especially if you're looking in these single family home communities, the HOAs are owned by these big, massive corporations, right? Rarely are you going to find a neighborhood where there's this like little association of 8 people that live in the community whose new life mission, you know, is to go around and measure people's grass and write HOA violations and things like that. We don't often hear these crazy horror stories of HOAs that are just like making your life so terrible. There are going to be guidelines and regulations, but usually it's very, very much within reason. Like if you're wanting to paint your house pink, they might have an issue with that. If you have a big RV that you want to have parked in front of your house all year long, you might run into an issue with that. For the most part, guys, the only thing that I've seen HOAs out here do is just keep neighborhoods nice and presentable, which really helps your resale value. And in my opinion, that makes it more than worth it. Now, another thing you may find is what's called a Metro District tax. This is a way for HOAs to add on to your property tax a little bit, but lower the cost of the HOA. So Sterling Ranch is a great example of that, where their average property tax is on the higher end, like I mentioned earlier in this video, at around 1.2%. Part of that property tax is an additional add-on called a Metro District tax. So Sterling Ranch's HOA is really affordable. I want to say it's maybe around $50 a month, but you get quite a bit out there. So what they've done is they take some of the money that they're using for their infrastructure and stuff like that, instead of just tagging it on as a higher HOA payment, it's a Metro District tax. And the benefit to that is that it is tax deductible, because your property taxes are tax deductible. Whereas just a higher HOA payment, you can't deduct that from your taxes. So in my opinion, I do like the Metro District tax add-on as opposed to just a higher HOA payment. That is something that if you're looking in one of these new communities might pop up. So wanted to share it with you in this video so that it's not a surprise to you and you're not wondering what the heck this Metro District tax is. Moving right along, let's talk transportation costs. Public transportation, as we've mentioned multiple times in our videos, is not the greatest out here. We do have a great bus system where you can buy an annual pass for about $114 and get anywhere you need to go. Now, if you're not too keen on the bus, maybe you want to look at our light rail system, which is essentially our train system, right? Now, this is really good if you're needing to travel north and south, or if you are just needing to travel primarily around Denver. It honestly is not the most robust system when you're looking at east to west, right? So again, Denver is awesome. We have east to west breakoffs going out to the airport, which is really nice, going out to Arvada, going out to Lakewood, going out to Aurora. And then on the southern side, that's where the east and west breakoffs get a little more difficult. Again, it's going to be really simple if you are, let's say you're living in Castle Rock. Essentially what you would do is you would drive to what's called the park and ride, right? Which is a big old parking lot. So you drive to the parking lot. At the park and ride, that's where you could then jump on the train. That train could take you to downtown Denver. You could go to work, you could go see a game, what have you, but you would still need a vehicle to kind of get to the park and ride. We do see quite a bit of people that are utilizing transit that way, but ultimately Colorado at the end of the day, guys, is a driving state. Even if you are just living within Denver, you're going to want to go on hikes. You're going to want to get to the mountains. You're going to want to do some fun Colorado things. Unlike maybe some other states where legitimately might not need a vehicle, Colorado is just not one of those. So I would definitely plan on that. Now, with that being said, if you have a vehicle, you're going to need to pay registration fees. That is going to vary per county that you're purchasing in, and it's also going to be based off the purchase price of the vehicle. On average, to give you some actual numbers though, if you're looking at a $30,000 vehicle purchase, you can expect to pay roughly $500 per year for registering that vehicle. All right, now moving into the fun stuff, let's talk recreation. Now, you can't come to Colorado without skiing or snowboarding at least a couple of times. You're definitely going to want to get out to all of our state parks that we have. You're definitely going to want to get out on some hikes and explore everything that the state has to offer. One of my favorite things about Colorado, guys, is that you've got a whole other worlds that are like an hour or 2 hours away, right? So this is like the best state when it comes to a staycation or a quick 3-day getaway, or even just, hey, I've got a half day on Friday at work. I'm going to get out and, head an hour or two into the mountains and get to experience some amazing activities. When it comes to skiing and snowboarding, this is by far going to be the most expensive activity, but also one of the most fun and honestly just like epic times that you can have up on the mountains. And if you're planning on doing that more than a handful of times, you're gonna want to look at getting an annual pass. Now, a single day lift pass, the majority of our big resorts, Vail, Copper, Breckenridge, they're gonna average around $200 a day. Not the cheapest, right? For just getting a lift pass for the day, you're looking at a couple $100, and that will vary per resort. Again, $200 is just an average. There are more expensive resorts, there are more affordable resorts, but this is where something like the Epic Pass comes in handy. You're looking at about $900 for an Epic Pass, and that will give you unlimited access to all of our major ski resorts, or at least the majority of them. There are other things you can do like 4-packs and 6-packs and things like that, where you can also save a substantial amount of money. But frankly, if you're planning on going 4 or more times, it's gonna be worth it just to go ahead and get the Epic Pass. And it's also cool because that way you get access to a variety of mountains as well. Now, something else you may not know about Colorado is that these ski resorts are open all year long. Obviously, you can't ski or snowboard there all year long, but you can definitely get up to the mountains and enjoy all 4 seasons. So for example, you can go and you can rent a mountain bike up at Copper. You can get a super cheap lift pass, and this is in the summertime. You throw your bike on the back of the lift, you ride it to the top, and you ride your bike back down. That is my kind of biking where I don't have to do any uphill pedaling. Now, that is my type of biking where you don't have to do any uphill pedaling. You just have to hold on for dear life when you're coming down. But guys, the views at the top of the lift, that makes it worth it just right there. Like the summer or fall time views at the top of any one of our ski resorts is just absolutely incredible. And it's something that a lot of people just don't take advantage of, even locals. They'll go up there for ski and snowboard season, but they'll forget that, man, you can just go up there in the summer, spring, or fall time and enjoy it as well. There's even people that just will pay for a lift pass, but literally just ride the lift and enjoy just some breathtaking scenery. Incredible, and honestly never gets old even after living here for so long. If you're not looking to go up to the ski resort all the time, you definitely want to check out our state parks. So it's $80 for a annual state park pass, and there are so many state parks here in Colorado, and they are all just freaking gorgeous and amazing. And it's definitely something that you're going to want to take advantage of, whether it is camping or hiking or just going for a nice walk during the middle of your workday, depending on where you live. Like one of my favorite places to go is Castlewood Canyon. It's on the very, very south side of Parker, technically in Franktown. A lot of people don't even know about it, but it's a state park and it's just a perfect 5-mile hike. It's a real hike, but it's also easy. You could take your dog on it and stuff, or kids. I mean, there's a little stream that runs through it. It is just absolutely gorgeous. For $80 for the year, that's something you're definitely going to want to budget for to take advantage of everything Colorado has to offer. Now, with all this being said, your next question is, okay, that's great, Eli, but how much do I actually need to make sure that I'm making before moving there so that I know I'm still going to be able to do all of these fun Colorado things that you just told me about? Well, based on our research, and again, this is going to vary drastically based on your lifestyle and your personal expenses and things like that. But if we're looking at the fundamentals of housing and living expenses, if you're a single person, you're going to want to be making about $70,000 per year. Or if you're coming out here and you've got a family of 4, you're going to want to aim for roughly $120,000 per year. Now, again, this is just primarily for transportation, housing, utilities, food, medical, things like that. Now, if you want to factor in a little bit more for your personal living expenses and things like that, you can adjust accordingly. But at a baseline, single person, $70,000. You've got a few kiddos, you're going to want to be looking at about $120,000. How does this stack up compared to other states and cities that are out there? So in general, what we found is that Colorado is roughly 30% higher than the national average, but it's roughly 30% more affordable than some of your more really popular areas like California and New York. Now, obviously, depending on the cities within these other states, that's going to vary quite a bit. But for now, we're talking just generalities. Just based on some of our research, we're pretty in line with a Chicago. Between our housing expenses, utilities, things like that, Chicago has crazy property tax, but we're about 5% more affordable than Chicago. Also, Austin, we're roughly 5% more affordable than Austin, Texas. Now, I know we might be more expensive than a lot of other Texas cities, but I think Austin's probably a fairly good comparison to Denver. And in that aspect, if we're comparing the two, you're going to be saving a little bit coming out here. Same with Southern California. We're roughly 30% more affordable than Southern California. In particular, you're going to be looking at property tax, income tax savings, as well as housing expenses are going to be a massive savings for you if you're coming from the West Coast. I would also say that we're pretty comparable to Florida. Depending on where you live in Florida is going to make a big difference, but if you're looking at some of the more popular areas, you're going to find our housing is pretty similar. We do have the income tax here that you're not going to have in Florida, but when you're looking at insurance savings and property taxes, you end up paying roughly 5 to 10% less living in Denver than Florida as a statewide average. So guys, that is everything you need to know about our cost of living here in the Denver metro area. I learned a little bit more about your specific situation. You guys know what to do. There's a number popping up on the screen below. If you give us a phone call, text message, or email, we are the guys that answer the phone and answer the emails. We would love to jump on a quick 30-minute Zoom call with you, discuss your personal situation and your move to Colorado. We'll jump on Google Maps. We'll talk about some areas that could work for you. And we'll also give our 2 cents on the best place for you based on the lifestyle that you're looking for, your personal living expenses that you're trying to live within, as well as just what you're wanting to get out of moving to the state, right? If you're looking for lots of activities and things to do, if you're looking for proximity to your work or downtown, we've got the place for you. So call that number below, guys. We appreciate you watching this, and we will see you next week.